rescue, revamp, create. The art of drum synthesis. The new course is available at Letsynthesize Academy.
Yo, Distortion here, welcome to the Neuro Synthesize Sunday episode, and today I want to talk about heavily distorted sounds, what happens with them and what you can do with them. So we go from this to this. Like always, you can grab this whole project for my Patreon below, and if you want to dig deeper into production, click here for my academy. I have awesome start to finish courses. Let's jump into it. Okay, so we go from this sound to this. From this sound, as you can see, we have lots of overdrives here, to this. And from this to this. So I'm showing to you how to deal with different distortion types. Now, of course, I can't generalize this, but I definitely will be able to give you some points how to go from an unusable sound to a usable sound. Okay, so what is the problem with too much distortion? It only creates too much unnecessary harmonics. It can be lower harmonics, mid harmonics, and high harmonics that obviously you need to deal with. So this is what I'm going to show you today. So the tools we're going to use is very simple. Most of the time it's just EQing, but we will use some extra distortion. It's fun enough, but you will see what I mean. Some compression and stuff like these. Okay, so let's use a digital GS cello whatever wavetable that sounds like this. Cool, let's use LE41 to move the wavetable, but just a tiny bit. Okay, let's use a low pass filter and add huge amount of distortion or drive to it with fatness. And let's use, for example, the asymmetric distortion. Let's crank this up to really high. And also another drive and fatness. And maybe let's add some unison voices to it. So with this, we just turn this wavetable into unusable sound, basically. So right now, as it is, it's just not good enough. Okay, so with this, we just kick off the balance between the lows, the mids, and the highs. So this is what we need to fix first with an EQ. Okay, so what I want to do is add back the lows and decrease the mids that, you know, the distortions created. And also the very highs, because this is the other problematic area that distortions create. But I feel I miss the mid highs. Okay, so the other thing that I love to do here is making the sound mono, but if I pull back the width on the utility knob, so the two channels may phase invert each other. So this is why I like to go with one channel. So let's choose the left one. But it's still not enough. Let's use another EQ. A little more boost on the lows. But decrease the mid lows, because this is the other very important part when we deal with distortions. As you can see, I also crank back the 500 Hz area. This is more like on the mids, but the mid lows to avoid the boominess of the sound that comes from too much mid lows. That is the other area that we definitely need to tweak here a little. Or let's tame those irritating, squeaky, resonant sound on the mid-highs. A very good tool could be to activate this headphones button, and you can hear the resonating frequencies. This is definitely that I want to kill here at around 7.5 Hz or something. Okay, another one. At around 2.6K, and maybe add a little more gain to the mid highs only. So I'm using the sixth one with very low resonance. Okay, so there is a magic tool that I love, and that is Soothe, and it can create magic. It's a resonance suppressor and it can help you bunch. The next thing that I want to use is a phaser. And that is really great because it can add some depth to the sound. And I honestly love it. So pull back the amount. I don't want to move anything here. Okay, and I want to add a little more drive to it. So why I am doing this? Why is the saturator here? Why we are talking about too much distortion and I'm adding even more distortion? So previously we just fixed the balance between the lows and the highs, because with lots of distortion we had too much highs, too much mids and very few lows. But for a good bass sound, obviously this is not really good. We need the lower frequencies to be the loudest and all the other frequencies must be tamed. Now it is fixed, but right now I want to glue them together. So this is why the saturation is here. So right now, as you can hear, the low frequency, the low harmonic, this guy here is basically amplitude modulates the other frequencies. So this is why the saturation is here. So I don't want to stop here. Let's use another saturation. And I want to add even more grit to it, because right now the balance of the frequencies are fixed. We can add even more grit to it. The wave shaper. So if you use FL, you already have a really nice wave shaper. 9%. But pull back the drive to about 2 decibels. So it created that awesome grittiness, but again created some unwanted harmonies that we need to fix again. So let's go to the EQ8, chop off the highs like always, add a little more from the fundamental harmonic, but tame the mid-lows. Also a little more around 200 and 300 Hertz. Another cut at a little higher, so this should be around the mid frequencies, so at around 500 Hertz. With some slight EQing, okay, this is not slight EQing, but with EQing we can fix almost everything, not everything, but almost everything. So one more thing at around like the 2K area. And the 7th should be around 7K, 6, 7. This EQ is very busy now. Let's drop another one. And let's drop back the mid-lows again a little more. Right, so basically with almost only EQing we were able to come from this to this. And before I finish it, I want to add chorus. But for example, if you produce dubstep, this is not a necessary step. For Neuro, I love it. Because the chorus creates more voices, and with more distortion it can sound really great with Neuro. Right, so this is cool, but what happens if I choose a different type of distortion? So let me duplicate it. This was asymmetric, and let's go with fold. So let's go to the FX and choose the linear fold. So if I crank this up, you can hear, probably you will hear that the whole sound turns into very noisy, almost unusable stuff. So here our job is almost the same, but we need to put a lot more focus on the highs here. So let me activate the process that we previously made. So for this type of distortion, band plus, minus or asymmetrical or whatever warping mode can be handy, because what it does, it creates some other frequencies, other harmonics, that this type of distortions react a little better. So if I crank this up, you can hear that we have some nice bassy kind of sound as an output, not like a complete noise. This is too noisy, but this one is more like gritty. So our job here is a lot easier to fix the problem that this too much linear 4 type of distortion created. Okay, so first I want to add a little more gain on the lows, because with this type of distortion we lost a lot, and I want to kill a lot more from the highs. Also a lot more on the mid highs. And maybe we will need another EQ, but this time we got too messy here. So pull back this EQ a little more. And maybe some other EQ to chop off the higher harmonics. Now the other problem that we encounter here is, as you can hear, the lower harmonic. So this guy, the fundamental harmonic, is too messy. So probably that would be a good idea to chop this off and use a separate sub. I won't do it right now, but this can be a good idea. Or if you use serum, just, you know, use a high pass filter instead and just kill the very lows and use a separate sub. So with this you instantly created some nice balance again, and from this point our job is basically done. If you want, you can add some final clarity by boosting the highs. And maybe I still feel that the mid highs are a little too much. But I think it is usable. It almost sounds like you use a compressed sine, but no, this is by just using crazy distortions. So we're able to go from this to this. Okay, so let's see what happens if you use the same serum sound, but we add a huge amount of overdrive. So I'm using 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 instances of overdrive. Very unusable sound. And as you can see, I kept the chorus before the overdrive. So we encounter the same problem, that the fundamental harmonic is very messy. So this is why I'm using an HP filter and try to stabilize. This is not the most ideal solution, but I'm showing this to you because sometimes I use this one. So using a high pass filter, I cut everything below the fundamental harmonic. So basically I'm getting rid of the noise, the low frequency noise. And by increasing the resonance on the high pass filter, I'm boosting the fundamental harmonic. And yes, this will kick off the phase relationship of the original sound on the lows, but this is not a problem because we are designing sounds now. So if you want, you can later chop off the sub and use a separate sub. But this is, I think, can be a good stuff to try when you run into this problem. So the same stuff that previously, boosting a little more on the fundamental harmonic, the very highs, and boost the mid highs. Make it mono. Aiming the highs and the mid lows. Add some resonance suppressor. Add the phaser to make it really deep. I'm using a saturator to glue the loud sub with the highs and the mids. And after the saturation, we again need to tame those frequencies that we just created with the distortion, with the saturation. If this is too quiet for you, pull back the sub and raise the output gain. And another EQ to do the same thing that I just did. So as you can see with the sound that I ruined very heavily, I was able to come up with a quite usable sound. And finally, I want to talk about this guy here. This is one of my followers' sound from the Letsynthesize Discord group. You can find it through my Patreon below if you want to join. So he created this sound, but I was like, this is quite unusable because it doesn't have the characteristic of a great Neuro bass. The dude made this for a drum bass song. So I applied the same process. So I tried to fix the balance between the lows, the mids and the highs, because right now this is not the most ideal way. I'm going to show you in a minute. So what I did is first I fixed the balance between the lows, the mids and the highs, added some extra saturation, and again fixed the frequencies that it created. So first I added the chorus again, the same EQ that you saw previously. This is not very good. Made it mono. Here I treated the most sensitive frequencies, so the highs and the mid-highs. Now it is a lot more enjoyable. Resonance suppressor. I added again a phaser to make it nice and deep, and I glued them together with the saturation and the final EQ. So as you can see, it is very crazy. And another EQ. And I also added almost 12 decibels of gain to the end to try to keep the loudness. But basically from this sound, I was able to come up with this, and this is really great for Neuro basses, but the previous one was not very suitable. Because a good Neuro bass or good anything bass, heavy bass, what it does is the lower harmonics, the sub, is basically amplitude modulates the higher frequencies. So here, it didn't really happen, but with this rack, of course the color is a little different, but it happens and it works. Right, so grab this project from my Patreon below and click here for my academy. I have awesome stuff for this course. I see you guys next time. Peace.